We're going to take a look now at comparing two population means where sigma is unknown, and in this case our data is going to be dependent or paired. Again, looking at conditions, what we're looking for is that we have random samples that are dependent. So our data is somehow going to be paired or related to one another. Quite often this is a before and after situation, but we'll take a look at a few examples together. Again, both population standard deviations must be unknown, and either both distributions are normal or both sample sizes are greater than or equal to 30. Now, when we're looking at this, we're looking at the paired difference for any pair of data. So we're looking at the same thing, the same subject, and two different observations for that same subject. So for each subject, we're going to subtract x2 minus x1. So again, I know I used the same example before, but if you had a pretest and scored, say, 62, and then you had a post-test and scored an 87, you would want to take your second value minus the first. So when I find my difference, I'm going to take 87 minus 62 to get 15. And the reason that the order is so important here is because I want to know that my score increased by 15. If I would have subtracted 62 minus 87, then I get negative 15. It makes it look like my score went down by 15 points, but it did not. So you definitely want to take the second value minus the first for each subject. And then we're simply just going to find the average of all of the values. In creating a confidence interval for paired data, again, we're going to be finding our point estimate, which is the average difference. So remember, we just talked about finding the differences by taking the second observation minus the first, so x2 minus x1 for each person or each subject. And then this is just saying take all of those differences and then divide it by the total number of differences. So essentially this is the average of the differences. And then we're going to find the margin of error. And of course, we're still in the T model because we're still using means where we don't know the population standard deviation. And this part on the top, which is all of this, is really just the standard deviation of the differences. So this is the mean of our differences, and this is the standard deviation of our differences. So it's just one sample, really, that we're looking at, and that sample is the sample of differences. And then we're going to take that divided by the square root of n to find the standard error, just as we did before. And then we're going to find our confidence interval from there. Now, typically, I would have you go through an example with me where we do everything by hand. And it's obviously a very good practice to do that, but I'm not going to do that in this case, so I apologize. The reason that I'm not going to do that is not out of laziness or the fact that I don't think you can handle it. It's just that the calculations they can get very complicated, and it's so easy in Excel. It's so easy because essentially what we're going to do is, as you can see, we're looking at, in this case, home utility bills for March and April, and we're looking at the difference between them. So this is paired data because we're dealing with the same house for March and April. Now, if I were checking conditions, as you can see, this would not meet the conditions because I don't have a sample size of at least 30, and I don't know that the population distributions are nearly normal. So technically, I should not move forward, but this is just a good smaller example that we can take a look at. So again, the mean is just going to be the mean of whatever happens in this difference column, which I haven't calculated yet. The standard deviation is going to be the standard deviation of whatever happens in this difference column. And n is going to be the count of whatever happens in the difference column. And of course, the confidence level in this case is 90%. Now, before I add the differences, let's take a look at the rest of this. The critical value, again, we're still looking at the T inverse. And I could have also done this T inverse two-tailed as we did before and said 1 minus the confidence interval and then comma, the n is the number of differences minus 1. That's our our degrees of freedom is the total number of differences minus 1. And that's going to give me the same value as the way I had it set up before. The standard error is taking this standard deviation and dividing it by the square root of n. And then, of course, e is multiplying those two values. So now all I have to do is talk about the differences. Remember, we talked about each difference being found by taking x2 minus x1. So really all I want to do is take the second observation from the house minus the first observation from the same house. And I can copy that down, and I can see I end up with b3 minus a3, b4 minus a4, etc. And then everything has calculated for me. That is the average difference, that is the standard deviation of the differences, that is the count of the differences, and now I end up with my lower limit and upper limit. So what did we find out? That we are 90% confident that the mean difference in utility bills from March to April is between $7.40 less and $8.74 more. And again, 0 is included in the interval, so we can't say that there is a difference between utility bills from March to April. Let's look at another example together, and I just want to point out that again, checking these conditions, this would not be met. And the reason that I'm choosing these examples where the conditions would not be met is because if we were doing this by hand, finding the standard deviation of differences is kind of a lengthy process, and that's why we chose to go straight to Excel. So just as a reminder, to find the standard deviation of differences, what I would do is I would find the mean of differences, so equals my post-test minus my pre-test. And I'm just going to calculate that mean really quick. So the mean of differences is 16.8. The standard deviation of differences is found by taking each value minus, so 20 minus 16.8. and 16 minus 16.8, and 15 minus 16.8, and so on and so on and so on. And then we are squaring each of those. So we're going to take that value squared all the way down the line. And then we're going to add all of those up. So we're going to find the sum. And then we would divide it by n minus 1, and then we would take the square root. So just that calculation, if we were doing this by hand, would take us quite some time. And that's why we're using a smaller sample size. So if you did want to do this by hand, you could. But again, we're not going to. We're just going to let Excel do all of the work for us. So the mean of the differences is found. The standard deviation of the differences is found. The count is 10, which is given in our question, but also Excel has calculated it. And we're asked to find a 95% confidence interval. And in this case, again, we're looking at paired data because it's the same student at the beginning of the CPR class and then a post-test at the end of the CPR class, just to make sure that the CPR class is worth it and the student's knowledge has increased. And so I can see that the critical value is found for me, the standard error is found for me, the margin of error is found for me, and that my lower limit and upper limit is 14.21 to 19.39. So again, interpreting the interval, what does this mean? We are saying that with 95% confidence that the mean increase in student CPR test scores from the beginning of class to the end of class is an increase of 14.2 to 19.4 points. Again, 0 is not contained in the interval, and thank God it's not, because if 0 were contained in the interval, we would not be able to say with any confidence that students learn anything in the CPR class. So essentially we're saying students are learning and their scores are increasing from between 14.2 to 19.4 points. Here's one last question for you to look at on your own. Again, it's just a difference question. So it's a, whoops, I forgot to change the titles, a before and an after. And we're looking for participants that are taking a new drug designed to lower their cholesterol for 4 weeks. So again, we're going to find a 92% confidence interval. oops, 0.92. And I want you to obviously check conditions aren't met because we don't have at least 30, but we're going to move forward anyway. But I want you to find the interval and then interpret the interval to show whether or not this drug can be shown to lower cholesterol. So when you're ready, press play to see how you did. So again, I'm going to find each difference by taking the after minus the before. And the direction is very important because if I took before minus after, this 3 would be positive and it would show that the cholesterol increased when in fact it did decrease. So make sure you're always taking the second minus the first. And then I get a mean difference of negative 10.6, standard deviation, the count of 10, which is not, whoops, this should be of all of them. I hope all of that is not the same. Oh no! Always make sure that your formulas are correct or you're not going to get the right solution. So I've got the average, the standard deviation, the count, and the confidence level. My critical value, again, you can use T inverse or 2 inverse 2-tailed. It's going to give you the same value. Standard error and the margin of error. And notice I end up with an interval that's negative 14.8 to negative 6.1. So big question, what does that mean? So there's two parts to our conclusion. Our conclusion would be I'm 92% confident that the participant's cholesterol level has decreased between 14.8 and 6.1 points. Because 0 is not contained in our interval, we can conclude that this cholesterol medication is effective. Good work. Now we're going to move on to look at two population proportions.